Hey guys, what's up? This is Wally with Beach River Landscapes. I hope you guys are all doing good. I wanted to cover something today that I get asked a lot. I get a lot of questions on raising prices of your current clients. So the question that I ultimately get is, should I raise my clients? When should I raise them? How much should I raise them? For me, there's always like one really important question. Do you need to raise your clients, or do you want to raise your clients? So for me, and my definition of that is, I'm operating like a no profit, spot, with certain clients. So if I'm there to where I'm just not really making a profit, or a profit I'm happy with, that's where I need to raise my clients. If I am operating and I'm doing okay, I just want to make more money than I am, then that's just something where I feel like I just want to raise them. So if you need to raise your clients, then you have to raise your clients. But it depends on where you're at in your business. So for me, when I started out, and then when we started rebuilding, there was a need to make more money, but I was in a place to where I needed to charge more, but in order to either kind of get going or rebuild kind of the same concept, in this particular thing for me, when I needed to raise the prices in the beginning, I didn't. I stayed where I was to just to ensure that I kept the clients. Because when you're to a point, for me, when I was at a point where I needed to raise my clients, it was needing to raise them, and at the same time, I kind of felt like, rocky boat. I couldn't lose any of them if I raised them, and that's a real hard place to be. And I can say that I don't think that anybody has the exact answer, to blanket everybody. So my feeling on this is not necessarily going to pertain to you. It's just something to think about. So like I said, I've been in a position where I needed to raise the clients, but I didn't want to lose them. The thought of losing a client's like, oh, it's painful. It's really painful. So for me, through the period where I needed to raise the clients, I left them alone until I felt, at least a little easy enough to prepare myself to lose a client by raising them. So once you get to that point and you feel like you can raise your clients, and you need to raise your clients, but you're also prepared to possibly lose a client because of it, I would say that's when you raise your clients, if it's something that you're considering to do. So like I said, for me, needing to raise them wasn't enough. I couldn't afford to lose them, even though I just wasn't making enough money off of it. Losing a client would have been worse for me than keeping them where they're at, though I needed to raise them. So I would say, again, when you need to raise them, you can go ahead and try it. If you're feeling uneasy and you're feeling rocky about it, man, just wait until you can afford to kind of, to have a customer drop off. I'd say out of 5 customers, it's possible that you're going to lose one, possibly even 2 of them. In some cases, none. But I would prepare for the worst. So you need to raise them. You get to the point to where you have enough to where you can lose them if if you have to. It's gonna suck, but everything has a transition. I mean, there's a transition in lawn maintenance and landscape. There's so many transitions, it's insane, man. So once you get to that point, you can afford it, go ahead. Because there's nothing wrong with explaining to people, hey, listen, the price of everything goes up, insurance, gas, this and that, and just not pleading with them, but really, take the corporate out of it and just say, hey, listen, I just can't afford to maintain your property along with everybody else's property at the price that we're currently doing it. I love doing your property. I'd like to keep your property, but I'm going to have to increase the property. And typically a lot of people will go like 15%, 10%. Some people do 20. I think that's too much. I personally, my first increase was 5%. Actually, the first time I ever did it, it was a 5% increase, and it was voluntary. I put in there that I'm not forcing an increase on you guys. But because of the price of gasoline, the price of insurance, workers, all this stuff that's just gone up, You know, the price of vehicles have gone up. Everything has just gone up. I'm asking for anybody that would voluntarily, you know, increase their rate currently by 5%. You know what? I had almost 100% of all of the clients voluntarily do it. I think it was, let's see, at the time it was 30 something clients. It wasn't that many, you know, just starting out, and it was 30 something clients, and it was just to that point to where I was doing them at a really good price. Some of them had been handed over to me and I didn't hike the rate. You know, I had some friends that gave me lawns, and I didn't hike the rate up. But they actually all did it except for a couple. And I had a lot of them that came back and said, hey, I really appreciate you asking us, and I think that 5% is totally fair. Now that's not something maybe you want to go, you know, go down, you know, that road you want to go down, but for me that worked. And that 5% per client, for the 30 something clients, that made a big difference. It made a really big difference. And like I said, you may want to do 10 or 15%. A lot of guys I know do that. They don't even ask. They don't give anybody advance notice. They just do it. And I have a friend that's got 700, you know, residential properties, and that's what he does, and it works for him. And he's got 700 clients, so it works for him. So it's just preference. It's knowing your clients, and that's a big thing. A lot of people just don't even know their clients, you know. It's just knowing your clients. It's trying to anticipate how they would react. And doing, ultimately though, you have to do what's best for you. It hurts sometimes to have to shed things and lose things, but at the end of the day, if that client appreciates your work but doesn't appreciate your work enough to be fair and go along with the raise, knowing that you need it for legitimate reasons, then at the end of the day, you're doing yourself a favor by not keeping that client anymore. So there's a bunch of other points on needing, you know, on needing to raise your prices, but that's just a couple, like if you need to. Now, wanting to raise your prices for me means that you're doing pretty well, and you want to do better. You're doing pretty well, you're making money, but you just really feel that you can make more money and should make more money off of your clients. Nothing wrong with that. You are the only person, I'm the only person that knows what my work is worth. You're the only person that knows what your own work is worth. So if you feel that you're at a place where you're doing good, you want to raise your clients, you can try this whole concept of voluntary, you know, hike increase, or you could just, I wouldn't just drop it on them though. I don't think that's right. We don't like it when our bill increases and nobody told us. It goes a long way for you to tell a client that you're going to be raising prices. And again, you're going to have to prepare to lose some of these clients. You know, it's if you raise your price and they let you go, then, you know, they let you go. What I've had to learn to do is just to let go. No matter how much I like the client or like doing it, if I'm going to raise a price and they drop me, that tells me that there's just no loyalty. And people say that there's no loyalty in lawn maintenance and landscape, and that's not true. I think a lot of you can agree that there is a lot, but it's not sustainable forever. I mean, it's something that can happen. It's something that can change like on a whim. I mean, it can change like that. So you have to keep the mentality of you're a business and you're going to continue to drive. It's like a restaurant wait staff, man. It's like the turnover rate can just be insane, or you can, you know, you get lucky and you keep a few for a long time. I've had clients for 10 years. I still have a couple of those clients for 10 years. But whenever you want to raise the prices, I think that for me, approaching it with the same mentality of, hey, this is why I would like to raise my prices and yada yada. Like I said, the voluntary thing, you can pick your rate. But I've just found that people really appreciated the fact that I said, hey, I mean, has AT&T or T-Mobile or your electric, you know, company ever said, hey, we really are kind of falling short financially. It's really kind of hurting us to provide you with service, and we're asking people to increase it by 5%. And that may sound crazy and like, well, I'm not going to give them the option. They're going to say no. I'm just telling you, me, it worked. And I had like 98% of them said yes, 99% of them said yes. Or you can not give them the option, and that doesn't make you a bad guy. Do not throw a price hike on a client and not give them notice. Give them a heads up, explain to them why. But just make sure, ultimately, not to beat a dead horse, but make sure you're prepared to lose them though. And it's a real sticky situation, to be in a spot where you have to make a change of any sort. Hiking prices, employees, new vehicle, new mower, all of that stuff's hard, man. This game of lawn maintenance and lawn care, this is not for everybody. I'm sure you guys can agree. Like this whole industry, I mean, it requires grit, man. It requires a person that can multitask in ways that a lot of people don't have to ever multitask. I mean, we have to, run a business, employees, emotions. We don't have HR departments. We don't have anything like that. Most of us. I mean, there's a couple of guys, that, a couple of companies that are fortunate enough and they're big enough to do that. Maybe we don't want to be that big, but even a small guy, even a guy by himself, I've been that guy, a few times. Solo operator. There's so much to deal with. Of course, you have different levels of crap you got to deal with, the bigger you get. And then you have to figure out what's worth it to you. But like on commercial properties, I have had pretty much all of our commercial properties almost say, hey, we're doing the budgets for next year. We think you should increase the price. 2 of them we agreed and we increased the price. And 2 of them I said, no, we're not going to increase the price. We're here to stay. You pay a perfect, you pay a balanced amount of money for the amount of work we do. I wouldn't feel right to charge you more money a month, and we're not going to be doing any more work than we're already doing. You know what I mean? So they appreciate that, and it's great. And in the commercial lawn business realm, typically there's no loyalty. You're in and out. Your guys screw up. They have a new district manager that comes in, new property manager, you're out. That's really true. But with us, we've been lucky and we do a really good job. Even when we screw up, I'm not going to say my guys because it's on us. Ultimately, Lee and I are responsible for everything that happens. We're not checking on the properties, falling behind them. I'm not working on the trucks with them off and on. It's ultimately my fault if we lose a property. So, but just making sure that you are in a position to raise prices is a big thing. You can't raise prices if you're doing crappy work, man. I mean, if you're doing really good work, you're consistent, you're always there, you do everything they need. I think raising prices, you have, if you have a strong ground to do it, that's the first thing. But just make sure that you understand you're going to lose some. Hopefully you will not. You have to give them notice of why you're going to raise the prices. And at the end of the day, like I said, your worth is your worth. You know what you're worth. But don't get cocky, man, and don't be like, oh, I'm worth, this yard that everybody else charges 25 bucks a cut or $40 a cut, I'm worth $80 a cut. We may be worth that, and we are worth that, but there's a fine line between what you're worth and what reality will pay you to do a job. During one period I had, there was one period when I was cutting lawns that other guys were cutting for like 160 a month and I was charging 280 a month and I was getting them like yard after yard after yard. So here's the thing is I got to a point where I was just like, yep, I'm not touching you yard for this or that. But you know what? I ended up losing so many of those yards because somebody came in doing just as good as a job as I was doing or I was having the guys do, and they were $100 cheaper a month, and the word got around and I ended up losing like a dozen of them. That's a lot of money, man. So you do 280, 260 to like $300 a yard. A couple of them were like $700 a month because they're just massive yards. They're like an estate and all this stuff. But once they got wind of this one, I can't remember the name of the company, man, but I wasn't mad at him. It was somebody that referred him. He was doing a neighbor I wasn't doing, and of course everybody talks in these neighborhoods, and man, they came in, they didn't give me notice or anything, dude. He wiped me out, dude. He took all of those houses, and then you look back and you're like $4,000 a month almost, just on a dozen houses, and averagely I lost because I just thought that I should be charging more than everybody else. That's just something that has nothing to do with you raising your prices, I guess, but I do want to put that out there. Just make sure that you're not cocky about what you're charging people. I think ultimately it'll backfire on you. So just make sure, just like any business, you know the market, you know what people charge in your area, you know what weekend warriors charge, you know what high-end companies charge, and then you have to figure out where you want to be in the middle of that. Like, I can't tell you what to charge. Like, I have neighborhoods where I'm charging like $90 a month, where other people are charging $120 a month, and then I have the opposite effect, you know, where I'm charging more than everybody else. So like I said, you have to know your clients, you have to know your neighborhood, know your area, know how long it takes you to get in and out. That's why there's one neighborhood where we do stuff really cheap. They're really nice, huge homes, but the yards are just like the size of my living room. And it's not taking advantage of them, and the word has spread. We're going to end up probably with 50, 60 houses in this neighborhood probably by the end of next summer, because the word has just gotten around. I mean, you know, we're in there right now doing, you know, over a dozen homes, and it's 2 hours and the guys are gone. And I mean, that's trimming, spraying weeds and beds, you know, full on maintenance, you know, lopping up, you know, palm tree limbs, you know, the whole 9 yards. You have to know your market, you have to know your properties, you have to know your workload, and you have to know your ability in getting, you know, with getting work done. So like I said, just don't go overboard. A lot of guys, I see a lot of people just going, oh, forget that, you need to charge this. If they don't want to pay it, they'll go somewhere else, and they will go somewhere else. Don't undercut yourself though. I have done that too. I have undercut myself, and I have just, like, you know, stabbed myself in the foot plenty of times, where I start a yard, and my whole thing is, if I say I'm going to do it for this, I'm going to do it for that, and I'm not going to cry about it. But I've stabbed myself in the foot, you know, so many times. And even with that, I'm not quick to go, hey, I don't know why I did this, and why. You can't, you know, start something and then 2 months later go, oh, I didn't charge you enough. Because when you start doing that, I mean, the name gets around, you know, things get around, and I really care about, you know, like the integrity, you know, of our business, and I care about, you know, the word when it comes to Beach River Landscape. So, and hopefully you do too, and obviously most of you do. But just make sure that it's you know, define whether it's a need or a want to raise your clients. Try the voluntary thing if you're too intimidated to force it on them. If you want to force it on them and you don't want to do the voluntary thing, please give them notice, because man, you're going to lose properties if you just shove it down their throat. So if you guys got any more questions or anything like that, just leave a comment down below. I'll make sure to, you know, respond to them as soon as I can. Hopefully this helps you guys out some. I tend to ramble, so if this was more rambling than information, sorry. So it's raining. It's like pouring. It is pouring, man. It's just this rain. I hope to God this rain does not do this again like it did last year. It's gonna suck. It'll give me more times for videos like this. I got the guys out, but they're not really doing much. They're kind of just sitting there. Told them about 30 more minutes if it doesn't stop to cut it. Anyway, guys, take it easy, all right? Peace.